Okay, that should do it. Good morning. So, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about mounting and waxing your watercolor, which is very timely because it will. The trend right now, at least, is that a lot of people are getting away from glass and glare and mats and framing and all of the expense that goes along with that and just presenting the artwork by itself. So, I'm starting to ease into this method a little bit more often for that reason. People just seem to want it more. If you're a watercolorist and you happen to be looking for any representation or something like that, you will probably have a better chance of having that if you don't put glass on your paintings. There's a number of reasons for this. Galleries don't like the glare. They don't like the weight. What if they have to ship it to someone? There's the added expense of, extra packaging because it has to be packaged extra careful because of the chance of the glass breaking, not only damaging the glass and the frame, but also the artwork itself. And it adds a lot to the weight, and there's just a lot of downsides for galleries to have paintings with glass. So that applies to pastel artists and other collage artists and things like that. So this might be one way that you can actually get away from that. Now, I wouldn't recommend the wax method for pastel artists, but it certainly works well with watercolor. So let's get into it. All right, so this is, of course, the one of the paintings that I did last week, and I don't know why it's this really weird color. Let me just check this on my screen here for a second. Just give me 1 second, and I'm gonna make sure I get this color corrected. Nope, still not doing it. Hang on 1 second. Let's go with the hue. Well, that's a little closer. There we go. Well, that's as good as it's going to get. Okay. I think the camera is trying to compensate for this really green board. So let's talk about what we're going to need for this anyway. So I'm working on this is one of those cutting mats. This is one that I use specifically for just my artwork and cutting. I cannot use this one for using an Olfa cutter if I'm sewing or something like that. So let me get my screen back on here. Okay, so this was a painting that I did, and as I mentioned when I was doing this, that my intended size was going to be 12 by 12, right? Square foot. But if you look, this wood panel that I plan to put it onto is 12 by 12, and you can see by the painted part, it's actually slightly larger, just a little bit larger. You see the actual painted area is a little bit larger. That's very important for when you need to mount it because, getting it, you have to put this face down, you have to put the wood on top, and then you can't even tell if it's centered properly, and you don't want any funky edges or anything on it when you're done. So I'm going to be using, this is a standard wood panel for painting. A cradle board, it's sometimes called as well. This one's a regular gallery or regular width, not the deeper gallery width. I didn't happen to have one for today's demo, so I'm just going to mount this on here like this. Now I'm going to also need some gel matte medium. This one happens to be golden, and by the way, it doesn't have to be matte. It could be gloss, it could be, doesn't matter. The polymer emulsion solution in here is the key ingredient for adhering it to the board because this will not reactivate with water. So if by chance it gets humid or something like that, this is not going to delaminate from my board. So you need to have something that is going to be not water soluble after it dries. Okay, so that's the acrylic gel medium, and I'll get into the waxing part later, but I'm going to use a brayer for this. I'm going to need a couple of large brushes. Now these are just synthetic brushes, nothing special, but they are big. As you can see, they are the width of my palm. So we'll need that. We need a knife with a very sharp blade. So I like to use these retractable blades, snap off a new blade, you know, whenever I'm doing a new project. A little bit of water. That's for dampening my brush. That's about it for that. And I'm just gonna, this is just for pouring my gel medium into. So first things first, I just unpackaged this, so it hasn't been treated in any way, shape, or form. So if I run my hand over it, it feels quite rough. So I could sand this, but I think I'm going to put some acrylic gel medium on it first. Then I will try and dry it. And this one's really stuck on here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to pour some of this out. So I will, you can see the consistency of it. It's pretty thick, creamy stuff. And just going to leave that off there. Now I'm going to use a dampened brush because it is fairly thick for this. So I don't want a wet brush. I'm going to wipe a lot of that extra water off. And I'm going to pick some up. And I think I'm going to do my sides first. Now, one thing to note is that if, this is going to seal the wood, but if you were to, say, prefer a painted edge, you're going to do all of that before you mount your watercolor. And the reason you want to do that is because you're going to do your paint on your edges with acrylic paint, not watercolor paint. So I'm putting it on as smoothly as I can. And one of the reasons that I dampened my brush is so that I don't have a lot of thick ridges or anything like that in my paint or in my gel medium as I'm applying it. So I want to make sure that I get this in good shape. Now this is like any other acrylic. It just doesn't have any color to it, but it will dry quickly. I'm going to help it along with the blow dryer so that you don't have to wait. And I'm putting it on reasonably generous. I have to redo that one. There we go. So I've done all the sides. Not looking for perfection at this point because I'm going to have to sand this in between. So I will need some sandpaper as well. Just didn't get it out yet. Let's move my painting out of the way while I'm doing this. Sound like a good plan? Now I feel like my brush is dragging a little bit, so I dampened it again once more. Because what I want to feel with my brush is I want to feel it sort of gliding across. Pay special attention to edges and corners. I can tell you that if your painting has a tendency to not want to adhere, that's where it's going to happen. Not in the middle of the painting. It's always going to be the edges or the corners. So make sure that these are well sealed. Otherwise, you're going to be putting on your watercolor, and too much of this is going to soak into the wood itself. And what will happen is if it absorbs in too much, then there's not enough to adhere the watercolor to it. So all right, so it's colorless. You don't see any color to this. I'm just going to plug in my dryer and we'll get this dry. Normally I would let this just air dry, but you know, you're all waiting, so let's not do that. This is a wood panel. It's designed for painting on, like if you were an acrylic painter or an oil painter, you could actually paint on this. But it will also serve as a wonderful substrate for your watercolor mounting as well. So this is 12 inch by 12 inch, and I believe it's an inch thick. I think it's an inch thick, not the standard 1.5 inch for gallery. It's called a wood panel. Sometimes it's called a cradle board. Yeah, most people just call it a wood panel, but sometimes that's a little misleading because wood panels can also be very flat, right, with no sides at all. So, wood panel. Yes, the painting is going to be going onto this wood panel, but preparing the wood panel is important, I think, especially the sides, because you want to do that part right at the start, especially if you want to paint them black or white or any other color you want to match your painting. You want to make sure that your sides are dry. Now this will take a little longer to dry than your regular watercolor. Of course, it's thicker. It's going to take just a little bit more time to dry. It's a little different than my usual videos where I'm actually showing painting process, but I mean, this is all part of it, right? It's getting dry. I can feel it. It's at the sticky stage right now, so we just have to dry it a little bit longer. Yeah, it is actually a little bit more. Angela's saying that in the UK, searches come up as wooden canvas. And I think that's probably a better description for it than wood panel, which is what it's commonly called here in Canada. But Erica's asking, I've seen these boards at Dollarama. Any good? You know what? If I were doing small paintings for a Christmas craft show or something like, and when I say small, I'm talking like 5 by 7 or smaller. I think that those would be okay, but let me warn you that it is nothing but a very, very thin veneer on the top of those dollar store canvases. Yes, you can use them. Yes, I have used them, but only for very, very small things. I find that if the quality's just not there, they will warp. The thickness of this wood piece on the top is so thin that you could press through and push right through it with your finger. It's that thin. So unless you can find some that actually have a thickness, which I'll show you in a moment, I would steer away from those unless you're just doing small gift stocking stuffer type of little paintings, you know, hostess gifts, that sort of thing. But for one of my paintings that I was entering into anything, no, I would never use a dollar store canvas. Use good quality materials. You've spent a long time doing your painting, so you might want to invest into the actual framing of it as well. Well, this is considered a framing method, really. So this is just preparing the canvas. It doesn't look like I did anything to it, but it is now sealed. And once you seal this, the fibers, oh my goodness, it feels like a rasp at the moment. It's very, very coarse. So, you know, it feels a bit like a cheese grater at the moment. And I'm going to definitely sand that down. But once the acrylic gel medium's on there, it will sand really nicely. You can sand it beforehand as well. I just didn't take that extra time to do that. Don't you hate waiting for paint to dry? I will sometimes save these up and do a batch of them at one time so that, you know, I'm not sitting around waiting. But on my own time, I would go over to another table and I would start painting something and I would come back to this. But, you know, we're doing this real time and everything, so let's speed things up as best we can. When you buy these wood panels, I would inspect them as well to make sure that they don't have any defects or dents or, you know, potentially somebody's like dropped it and smashed a corner a little bit. Now, takes quite a bit to damage these, which is really good. Mod Podge, I don't know about Mod Podge. Mod Podge is, does it reactivate with water? If it does, I would steer away from it. I don't know of its archival qualities. So those are things that I would look into, Carol, if you are thinking about using something like a Mod Podge to adhere. But yes, this acrylic gel medium, in many ways, seems a lot like the Mod Podge, but do check it out. I haven't used it myself, so I'm not going to say yay or nay, but yeah, check it out. And if it's archival, if it is waterproof after it's dried, permanent, then I'd say I don't see why not. Okay. So it's starting to feel pretty good now. I'm going to take a sander and give this a light sand. Okay, this is a sanding block. It's just a foamy thing that's got sanding surface, and it's going to be noisy for a second. I don't need a lot of aggressive sanding. And I do sand with the grain, not against it. So this now controls how absorbent the wood is. All right, so now it's not as absorbent as it would be without this. And when I was talking about the thickness earlier and the dollar store, I don't know if I have a dollar store one available. I don't think I have one offhand that I can show you, but if I zoom in, you'll see what I'm talking about, the thickness of the wood that I'm on the edge. This is what you want to kind of look at. Right, it wants to focus there instead of right here. Focus here, camera. Doesn't want to. There we go. Okay, so maybe you can see the thickness of the wood now. You can see that it's an actual plywood. If I put my I have to trick the camera into what to focus on. There we go. So you can see that it is actually a plywood, and plywood is actually several layers. The ones at the dollar store are very much just one of the plywood layers. So it's a lot thinner than this. All right, so there you go, camera. You can relax again. And has a little bit of a hissy fit when I do that. So now the edges, I need to sand these as well. These will probably need a little bit more sanding because there's probably a little bit of glue, or even the edge where the wood was trimmed. Like, I don't know if you probably can't see that, but there's some definite raised areas there. And this is all the kind of prep stuff I would want to do to this wood beforehand, because once the painting's on there, I don't want to be doing all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to do all this before I put my painting on. I actually will do a little bit of this, but very, very gently at the end. But and I'll explain that when I get there. Okay, so this one has a little defect in it. It's got a little chip in there. So I'm going to have to take some wood filler, fill that, sand it, seal it again, that sort of thing. But I'm not going to do that for this demo. I'll come back to that and do it carefully later. But that's the sort of thing you want to look for. It could be that there was like a corner on this one. So it could have been actually hidden when I examined this one. And I bought it from a long time ago, so I don't think I have even don't remember where I got it or where the receipt might be. So okay, so that's feeling quite smooth now, which is good. Last side. Okay, so I would do probably that process I would normally do twice. Like I would just let all this dry, then I would coat it again. But I'm going to get right into the painting part here. Now, this was the painting that I did last week's demo. So I'm going to mount this one. And I do have a little bit more painting I'm still going to do on this. And I can still do it after it's mounted, provided I haven't waxed it. If I've waxed it, game over. I can't do any more to it. When you've waxed it, it's done. But I'm going to put it on the board. Then if I feel like I still need to add something to it, like I think this needs maybe a couple of veins or something in here, then I could do that. But here's the problem. Let's wipe away all the sawdust here. Okay, so here's the problem. I need to mount this wood onto this, but I can't see the front. So how do I figure it out? Here's what you can do. If you take a little straight pin, right? Like a little straight pin like that, you can pierce the corners of your painting. And if you do it in each of your corners, you'll be able to see exactly where the corners are. I could also trim this. That would also work. But I'm just going to pierce this. It's a little faster. So on the back, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little pinhole right there in each of the corners. Now I know where the corners are on my painting. I'm going to put that defect at the bottom. Where was that? Right down here. Okay, so I'm putting this face down. And I'm going to put the wood like this. Okay, that's my method of applying it. But now I need to put the sort of glue on here. So I'm going to start off by putting a generous but uniform coat of the gel medium on. And once again, pay close attention to those corners and the edges. Those are so important because that's where it's going to lift, if it's going to lift anywhere. So I usually put a little extra on. So you always want your painting a little bit larger, just because that will give you a little bit of room for error. There's no way you're going to measure out your painting, paint it, and have it the precise size of your board. So it has to be ever so slightly bigger. But when you're doing your painting design, keep that in mind as well, that you know you're going to be cropping a little bit off. So I'm not aggressively brushing. I'm picking up a generous amount, as you can see. And I'm not spreading it out too far. I'm putting plenty on here, but I'm trying to put it on pretty uniform. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. I'll set it behind me. And I'm going to apply some to this as well. And the reason I want to apply it to the painting itself is because I want to make sure that this doesn't absorb everything, and then it doesn't have enough bond. So I'm going to apply some to my painting as well. I only need to go as far as the dots, the little pinholes. Just giving myself a little extra gel medium here to... Don't want to skimp on it. Yeah, some of it's going to squeeze out and it'll be fine, but you get one crack at this. That's the thing, right? You have one crack at it, so don't be stingy with your gel medium and sacrifice your whole painting. Not worth it. Once again, I'm spreading it evenly. Now, the paper will have a tendency to curl or buckle a little bit because of the moisture we've just added with the gel medium. But I've got a coat on here now. Maybe you can see I've got an even coat pretty much everywhere. All right, so I'm going to bring the wet, still wet wood panel back, and I'm putting that flaw at the bottom. So I'm going to place this, and I'm looking for the pinholes. So I want to place it equally spaced between the pinholes. Okay, so I'm going to press down firmly, especially in the middle here. And there's enough glue on there, and even though it's wet, I can lift this. Now I'm going to lift it carefully and flip it over. And I want to make sure that when I was placing this on there that I didn't create any air pockets. So that's where the brayer comes in, and you can put a piece of tracing paper or tissue paper or some other kind of paper in between, but I've got a clean brayer, so I'm just gonna hold it and brayer from the middle out. Not too hard, just to make sure there aren't any air bubbles in there. This will ensure a better bond. Now the fact that I didn't go to the edge with the glue means I'm not getting any glue on my brayer. Okay, so I've got this extra overlap. That's one of the reasons why I prefer the pinhole method rather than trimming off the edges, because it ensures that my brayer is going to stay nice and clean. I'm not going to get any of this on the front of my painting. Okay. I don't feel any bubbles. Maybe a little one right there. Make sure that comes out better. So I start off really lightly, and then I can apply a little more pressure to make sure all the tiny bubbles are out. Okay, so I'm going to flip it back just to make sure I haven't shifted anything in the process. And it looks okay. All right, looks like I'm in good shape. Now I'm just going to take a paper towel here and wipe off the excess glue all around the edges. And you want to do that because that excess glue that oozed out can actually leave an ugly edge on this for you. So you want to make sure that you're getting that excess off. Messy stuff, but I'm going to take another one, make sure I get all that excess wiped off so that my edges don't end up with lumps and bumps on them. All right, so this stage I would leave for quite a long time. But I'm going to dry where the edges are here, and I'm going to trim this just so I can show you. And so I'm going to dry just the acrylic around the edges here so I can trim that off. And that's why you need this cutting board to work on. This is one of those self-healing boards. Now, if I'm doing a very large piece, you need large brushes and you just need to work faster. This is for me, this is a relatively small piece, which I chose so that we could, get the whole project done. But I want to dry this well before I attempt to cut it. It will cut much better when it's dry, and it won't shift or anything. It does look like a frame on the back. Actually, in one show, I actually painted this and used this as the paint surface so that I didn't have to frame it. So it does kind of look that way, doesn't it? But this sort of wider framework on these panels, that gives it more stability. And on the really big ones, you'll even have support bars in the middle. Not that you would be mounting anything that big, but you never know. Okay, I would prefer to leave this for a few minutes. So I'm going to come back to this one and I'm going to grab another painting and I'm going to show you the wax method. Okay, so first I'll show you a painting that I've done both the mounting and the waxing on, and then I'll show you how I do the waxing by itself. Okay, here's a smaller painting that I did. You can see I painted the sides of this before mounting this. This, I don't even know if I've waxed this. I don't think I have. I don't think I've waxed this. Maybe I had a couple of things that I was planning to do on this, but I'll go ahead and wax this. I think it's as done as it's going to be, except I haven't signed it. I guess I have to do that. So anything that you need to do on your painting, you have to get that done before you wax it, okay? So you don't want to be trying to sign it afterwards. So I won't use that one, but I will, I'll take this piece. Now this isn't mounted, but that doesn't change the process at all. So let me move this out of the way. If you were working on a larger piece, you could actually put weights on that piece that I just put behind me. You know, if you were working larger than that. Now, for this, I'm going to be using a cold wax medium. So I'm just going to scoop away my gel medium here. You don't want this stuff to dry in your brushes. So give me a second. I'm just going to wash this out of my brush. Oh, I haven't signed this one either. Hang on a second. I'm going to use pencil here for this. This is a demo that I did a little while back, so you can check that one out. This is a Canada tulip. This green board really makes the camera freak out here. Let's see if I can get a little closer here. All right, so now I'm going to be using a product. This is a cold wax medium. This one's Dorlands. Gamlin also makes one that is good, and I don't know who else makes them, but I'm sure that there are other brands that are quite good. Before I get ahead of myself here, I should probably take a look and see if you have any questions so far. Cold press. Okay, so Cheryl's saying, every time I look at my glass-covered art, I get frustrated because I see the reflections and the glare. This process eliminates glare. Yes, it does. It is kind of nice, I think, to remove all the obstructions between you, the viewer, and the artwork. So I'm using a cloth here. This is like an old white t-shirt. Really. It's got to be lint-free, and I'm going to be using this cold wax on this. I don't know why those colors are so funky today. I don't know what's going on there, but anyway, I'm going to just basically hold it like this, scoop up some, and start rubbing it on. Now, I should mention one thing before I do this. Okay, before I start doing that, if you have a painting that has a lot of built-up color on it, let me show you an example. this would be a good example of a painting that has a lot of dark color on there. If I start, like wax and watercolor don't mix, right? They don't mix, but there is pigment sitting on the surface and that can move around. So I'm going to use spray fixative. This one's called Spectra Fix. It's actually a pastel fixative, but it does actually say that it's for watercolor as well. So when you use a fixative, and I saw this question earlier on, the fixative is just a dusting you put on there. You don't apply a lot of it. You don't spray it really close and get a blast of it. It will very much seal the paper, making it very difficult to do washes or things on top of. So something like this, for example, let me just put something underneath here. Just going to take some paper towel and put it underneath so I don't get fixative all over my cutting table. Okay, I'm holding this like that's 8 inches, okay? I'm easily a foot or more away from the painting that I'm going to spray. So gentle sweeps, go beyond, like don't just go from here to here. You have to go beyond. All right, so I'm going to do that. Back and forth sweeping motion. Now, I didn't mount this, so of course that moisture is going to make it wrinkle a little bit, but for demonstration purposes, that's fine. So what this is going to do, that little bit of spray that's on there, it's holding the paint so that when I actually go with the wax, nothing gets disturbed. If you feel like you need another coat before you put the wax on, go for it. You could certainly do that. All right, so I'm going to go back to my tulip here. This one I don't think has so much pigment on there that it's going to be a problem at all. You'll actually be surprised. Okay, now this cloth isn't pristinely white, but you'll get the idea. So I scooped up a bit on my paper towel, and I'm going to use a circular motion, and I'm using a circular motion because all my paintings are on cold pressed paper. I want to make sure I get into all the nooks and crannies of the paper texture. It doesn't really, you can't really see much, but like it's almost invisible when you put it on, so it's really hard to tell that it's on there even when the painting's done. But I'm not picking up a lot of color here. Make sure your cloth is lint-free, or you're going to have lint all through your whole painting. See, all that red never came off. It's all staying put. I know the first time I tried this, I was having a little bit of a freak out because I thought, oh my gosh, the color's going to smear, and it doesn't, which is quite amazing, really, but I guess it stands to reason. Okay, so that's the wax process. I would probably put 2 coats of wax on there. I don't know if you can see it. It's got a slight sheen to it right now, but that actually kind of goes away after, I think. Now let me just explain that if you want a different finish than this, you could actually buff this after it's dry. But I would put 2-3 coats on perhaps. But just to show you how well the wax works. Now, normally, don't do this while yours is wet, but I'll show you on mine. If I take a brush and I drop some water on here, you can see how well protected that is from the wax, right? It just rolls around. So your finished painting, you'll easily be able to, take a dust cloth and wipe off the painting and not worry about damaging it or anything like that. Now, will it protect it from, dents? No, it won't. But once it's mounted, it's going to be pretty darn sturdy. And this excess wax on here just kind of protects it. And I find that and it's never going to show on this camera right now because the colors are a little funky, but it doesn't do a thing. Maybe it enhances some of the color a little bit, makes it pop a little bit more. I actually like that, but you don't have to buff this afterwards. I like to leave my matte finish. I don't actually like the shiny glossy kind of finish. Just wondering if I had something handy that I could show you a buffed one, but I don't think I do. But you buff it with the same clean lint-free cloth, and that will bring up a shine. Like polish. If any of you are old enough to remember polishing mom's furniture, then it's a little bit like that. The goal was to get the shine, so you buff, and so let's go back to the mounted piece now. And as I said, about 3 coats of that, 2-3 coats, and you're good to go. Just make sure you're covering all of the areas. It's a little hard to see. I mean, other than that very slight sheen to it, but it's hard to tell if you missed a spot. So that's why I do it a couple of times anyway. Make sure it's thoroughly covered and that I haven't missed anything. So I'm going to bring back this one now. Let's assume I left this overnight and it's nice and dry now. And I'm going to take my retractable knife and I want to trim this off. But I want to talk to you about the trimming, because if you just sort of trim and you don't get close enough, you're going to have an overlap. If you cut in too hard, you might actually shave some of the wood. So I extend the blade just a little bit extra so that it can sort of lean up against the straight edge of the wood. And that way I'm not cutting the wood and I'm cutting the paper right up against it. So let me show you what that looks like. So I've extended it maybe 4 blades out, okay? And I just need to get it started. And I'm holding this firmly because the wax medium hasn't fully dried yet, or the acrylic gel medium. So you can see I'm actually bending the blade a little bit. Okay, so there goes one end. Trimmed off some of my painting, as you can see. Turn it. Same thing. sort of pressing the actual blade up against the wall of the frame. Turn it again, 90 or 45 degrees, 90 degrees, sorry. Do wait for your paper to dry fully before you do any of this, because if your paper, like your painting, gets kind of damp, you know what cutting something damp is like. It can sometimes bunch and so on. That's why I wanted to dry this, give it a little bit of extra time. It is nowhere near fully dry, but it's not wet enough to give me a problem. So big reveal, here we go. There's the mounted painting. And I will usually do my wax after it's on the board. And the reason I do that is because even though it's the thickness of the paper is very, very minuscule. But I want that covered with wax too. I don't want any moisture getting into the edges or anything like that. So I will, when I wax the front, I make sure I get some of the edges. In fact, there's no harm in waxing the entire side of your wood as well. So you can wax all sides. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, it ensures that it's going to be fully sealed. So anyway, that's how I would do this. As for hanging this, like any other hanging method, you're going to measure maybe a third of the way down. So maybe here and here. Put in a couple of D-rings. If you're not familiar with D-rings, they are these type of rings. If you enter anything into a show, I don't know of any show that doesn't require this, that you put a couple of D-rings in like this, and you use proper picture wire. Don't use string. Use proper picture wire to go across. Now, when you put the wire across, it doesn't go up to here. It's just a slight arch. It should be two inches or so from the top of your painting, at least. Now, the bigger the painting, the more space can be there. But if you put your hangers a third of the way down and put your wire fairly taut, not straight across, but fairly taut. So it's got just a slight bow to it, but like that. That should be fine. Pull up on it to make sure that you aren't too close to the top, and that would finish off your painting. So mount it, burnish it, let it dry fully, and trim, and do your waxing at the end. So this is all garbage now. So this can be thrown away, but that is my method for doing that. So I'm just going to take a look at any of the questions, because I'm sure that you have this. Can I spray my painting with varnish? Some artists do. You can use like a UV varnish is very good as well. And I would use the fixative on it first, for sure. It doesn't have to be this brand. This is a nice one. This one's it's health safe, so I like that aspect of it. Doesn't have toxic fumes and all of that sort of thing. Mostly has alcohol in it, like rubbing alcohol kind of thing. So it does, you spray it on, usually would let it evaporate. I set the other one aside. I can still feel no, that's not the one I did. This is the one I sprayed. So it's it's almost dry now, but I can still feel some dampness. So I would let that fully dry, and that will kind of hold everything that you've got. And that's I think an important thing especially if you have something with lots and lots of pigment on the surface of your painting. Sue says, I learned after using wax the first time to wear a glove. Hand gets all, yeah, it does. My hands feel like I've got stickum or something on it. I could go out and play baseball or football right now. I've never played football in my life, just so you know. I was told that we lose the light typical of watercolor when we mount them in this way with a wax or varnish on it. What's my opinion on this? That's a great question. This does say that it is completely archival. If your colors lose, if your painting loses color, it is usually not because of this. It is because of perhaps pigments that you've used that are fugitive. Maybe you've used a few student quality. Sometimes they aren't as permanent. And especially if you hang it in the sun. Now, if UV or fading is of any concern to you, then perhaps try the UV spray. I think I might have some. Okay, I don't have the spray. What I have here is a satin UV varnish, and this could be brushed on. Now, this is, I don't know if you can see how liquid that is. I'll open it up. It hasn't been used, but it is very much a liquid, very liquid. So you would apply that like a Damar varnish or something like that, and you would just brush that on and let that dry. And this is kind of a UV blocker, so it will help reduce the fading of any kind. But I've never experienced any of the color fade that when I've used this method. My paintings look just as vibrant as they did when I did them. So I don't personally have any experience with that fading. So, but I only use artist quality materials, so that can make a big difference actually. So fixative, then wax. Yes, I didn't use any fixative on this one because I didn't feel like this was a really dark, heavily pigmented painting. There was a lot of light areas in it, but something like this, I probably would. The last thing I would want in something like this would be to have this dark smear into my egg, right? It's not likely going to happen, but it could, right? So I'm erring on the side of caution, put the spray fixative on, that sets everything, and then I can put the wax on without any fear. So let's see, what else have we got question-wise? I might have to scroll back a bit. Forgot where my mouse was here. I'm scrolling way back here. I know every week I end up sort of skimming through this and I miss somebody's question. So I'm going to just bear with me here for a second. I'm going to try not to miss anybody's questions. Some I've already answered, so I won't repeat them. Yeah. And well, if you know what, if I'm looking for questions, I got a job for you. You can go ahead and subscribe if you want. If you got time to kill anyway. But, okay, Dollarama got that question. Can you use any wood panel or does it have to be specific for painting on? That's a great question. The question is, can I use any wood panel, or does it have to be specifically for painting? I would recommend it for painting, mostly because if you have, for example, a wood that has knots in it, wood that has knots in it, wood has something called tannins, and the tannins are like the sap seeping through, and they're especially noticeable on big knots, like when you get like a pine or something like that. You'll notice that these wood panels don't have knots, and they might have something dark like that, and that's fine. But where the knots are, the wood tends to seep the sap out of the wood. And so that can discolor, and that is not acid free. So sealing your wood first, because you want to seal your wood before you put your painting on so that it seals it all up. But even if you have knots in it, the sealer's not enough. So look for clear panels. I think as long as it's clear, I think you're probably fine, as provided you treat the wood appropriately, where you're sealing it with the gel medium. Make sure you're doing all your painting on the edges. If that's, if you want to paint at edge, you could do that, and do your wax last. Okay, so there was a question earlier about Mod Podge, and Karen has answered and said, no, Mod Podge will not reactivate. So that's good to know. Now, I would just check to see whether or not it is archival, whether it would yellow or something, as Katrina's maybe suggesting. Oh, no, she says it doesn't Mod Podge color after time or turning yellow. Oh, no, that was a question. So I don't know. Some of you will have to answer about the Mod Podge, whether or not it yellows. Do a little bit of research. If you can't find the research online, you know what? Contact the company. And whatever they tell you is, if they know the product, they would know the product better than anybody else. So, gesso. What about gesso? Okay, so what about gesso? You could use gesso for sealing, but you cannot use it for gluing. Okay, it is, it won't glue the painting to the board in the same way. But for sealing the wood, absolutely. Like you could put gesso on your edges or something like that. Now, I would definitely put some of the wax medium on top, or the acrylic gel medium on top of the gesso. If you are just gessoing your edges white or whatever, black or whatever, they do make black gesso as well. Okay. Has anyone tried the Soho Select stretched watercolor paper sold by Jerry's Artorama? I have not tried that one. It is stretched canvas such as 9 by 12, 5 by 5/8 of an inch deep. I would like to know if anyone's thoughts. Actually, I just stumbled across some watercolor canvas the other day. I was doing some cleaning up and sorting out, and I came across some watercolor canvas that I have, and the watercolor canvas is not like the paper. It feels different. It's basically a fine canvas that has been treated with a watercolor ground to make it more absorbent, to force it to behave more like a watercolor paper. But it isn't paper. So I know how to paint on my Arches paper, and this, I think I mentioned this earlier, but this is a cold press paper, and that's what I'm used to, and that's what I've come to know. And I suggest whatever paper you are using, get to know it inside and out, and then you'll paint with more confidence once you know what's going to happen when your brush touches it. Let me see. Still reading through some of the questions here. I'm trying not to miss any. Oh, Cheryl's saying, Shelley, I'm so happy to see you show this process. I'm glad about that. I've been doing this for years. Many artists still don't believe that this is a professional way to mount art. Okay, so yes, you're correct. It is not 100% widely accepted. Although a gallery might prefer this method, because in a gallery they have, as I mentioned earlier, they don't have the glare issues, they don't have the breakage issues, the liability, the problems shipping, etc., etc. However, if you are entering something into a painting competition, many will consider this now a mixed media if it has varnish on it or if it has wax on it. Many will say, oh, no, it's not resoluble, so therefore it is no longer pure watercolor. I think it's a newer method. I don't think either way is right or wrong. I just think that they're different. And it just means that if you've put wax on it, you can't enter it into some of the shows. That's what it means. But you're the artist. You get to do whatever you want. That's my opinion. You know, there's actually no rule book. I mean, yes, competitions do have rules, but there's no law of watercolor. There's no art laws that I know of. And, okay, so, I'm sorry, I'm just reading still here. I bought a 10-meter roll of Bauhong, 300-pound cold press to see what it's like because it would be a huge saving if it's not too bad. $70 Aussie dollary dues due to arrive next week. Well, I'd be very interested, Katrina, to hear about that. And I think it would be very interesting to see 300-pound paper rolled up. I'm suspecting it's going to be a very large roll because it's not easy to roll 300-pound paper. It is pretty thick stuff. So that I would love to hear your feedback on that one, Katrina. And gosh, I hope I'm brave enough to give this a try. You know what, Vicky? If you are concerned about trying this, try it on something small. I often get people that are too scared to try it. And then the thing is that if you try it and it doesn't work out, like try it on a painting you don't love so much. Like, you know, not a precious painting, just to try it on something small. Maybe go to the dollar store and buy one of those little ones and try it on a little small thing and try that out first. It's actually pretty straightforward. And not hard to do. The big thing is get loads. Like you saw how much I poured out of the acrylic gel medium, and how much I scooped up with my brush, and how generously I applied it. That's going to buy you the time to get it on there and roll out all the bubbles. If you don't put enough on, or if you put it on too thin, it could start drying before you even get the paper on. So that's what I would do. Just try it something small. I think you'll probably fall in love with it. Like papering the wall. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, you got to do it fast like that, right? It's an interesting board. Jay Pettifor says, I have been using this method for more and more. I use the light table to center the painting. That's another good way. Thank you for that tip. On the panel, I make sure that the painting goes a bit beyond the outlines while painting. Yes, that's so important. I put heavy boards and pots on mine. Yes, you can definitely weight it down. I wouldn't weight it on the front. I would put it onto a really flat surface and do it that way, or cover this with something and then put your weights on. But it's probably best to put it face down and put the weights on it here, because once the weights are on it, there's no give, right? There's the pressure and the table, and there's no give the way that there would be pressing on it this way. Now that's a pretty strong board, and this is a small painting, so it's not going to be an issue on this size, but certainly on something bigger, put it face down when you are putting the weights on it, and put it face down on something clean. Cheryl says, beware, I used a spray fixative that I used some pastel to highlight my art and it turned cloudy. If you're using it on pastels, like this is a pastel spray, there's a lot of pastel artists who are not fans of the spray for a variety of reasons, but many don't like how it shifts the color in pastel. So, but I have not noticed any color shift in watercolor. And I think the main reason for that is that pastel is a very dry medium. And when you spray something on that's in something of a liquid form, it is, of course, going to color it. You know, anything that gets wet, if you look at a stone and you get it wet, it looks completely different when it's wet than when it's dry. And so you will get a color shift. And because it's wet and sets it that way, it kind of stays looking dark all the time. So pastel artists don't like that. I haven't noticed much of an issue with watercolor, though. Yeah, but you know what? I would speak to your pastel experts regarding that particular use of the spray fixative. You can also use the brand I was using. The question I'm seeing was Spectrafix. It's the one that I'm using, and Krylon also makes one. Krylon you do need a ventilation for. This one is not harmful, so I don't need to have like windows and doors open and that sort of thing. This has no odor whatsoever. Can I spray my painting with varnish? Yes, I answered that question. Yeah, because although I showed that I have the liquid form, you can spray it on as well. And might have that detail wrong. Okay, so Val is saying, wow, how many of us heard you mention waxing and mounting our paintings? Yeah, well, if you haven't heard of it, today was the day. If you're trying to enter the painting in a competition, would you photograph it before or after you mount it? I don't think it matters. You're going to crop it to this size anyway. It might be easier to crop it photographically after or like before you trim it. And do make sure if you enter in anything that they allow a mounted waxed watercolor. Many won't. So as long as the rules of whatever you're entering say it's okay, then I would go ahead and do that. But I would probably photograph it before mounting it, but it probably doesn't make a lot of difference. I could photograph this now if I wanted to. I haven't put any wax on it yet. I could photograph this now, but in the cropping process, I'd probably lose a little bit more. So that's why I say, if you just do it before you mount it, it's probably better. Yeah, I've actually used some of that Bao paper. It's not bad. I find it a little bit soft, like it absorbs more like it doesn't seem like it has as much sizing in it. It seems to absorb a little bit more, but it washes very nicely, and yeah, I've found it okay. Now I bought the Bauhong that I bought was the artist quality, not the student grade. Now I'm not sure how much difference they are because they both say that they're 100% acid free, so, but they don't really specify what that difference is. So I'm not really sure, but okay, yeah. All right. I think I'm at the end. I don't think I missed any questions. Thank you. Yeah. Wish see if I angle it. You can see the colors a little bit better if I angle it for some reason, but maybe if I'm going to turn out these lights, maybe that'll make a difference. Well, not great, but it's better, a little better color-wise. Still looks a little funky on the screen, but anyway. So let's just get back to here. All right, so that's a wrap for this one, and I hope you enjoyed that. And give it a try. Try it on something small if if you're a little nervous about it or something like that. But and have fun with it. That's all I can say. Have fun, and we will see you. I will not see you next week. I'm going to be in Pennsylvania, so I will see you in 2 weeks. Okay? Have a good one. Stay safe. Bye.